Yeah, so Brian Klinger, CEO, Klinger Paint Company. We are in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. We manufacture paints and coatings, all kinds of different stuff, and water-based, solvent-based, interior, exterior, industrial, you name it. List goes on and on. But it's about 2,000 different formulas as we sit right now. Yeah. I mean, it's been there for a while. It's something I knew we need to progress on. If we as a company want to progress up, we need a good foundation, and a good ERP system is in that foundation for sure of future success. What we were using was a program called AccuTerm, or what we are using is a product called AccuTerm, and that product is a DOS-based program. It works for pulling up batch tickets, doing lab, formulating, all those things, testing, things like that. But it doesn't track our inventories well. It doesn't communicate with any other of our systems, so it makes it difficult, and it makes our time has to be used to manipulate those data points over into another system, which, in my opinion, again, when you're doing that, you're leaving more room for error on that and just human input error. Batch scheduling is definitely in there. We do batch scheduling on an Excel sheet right now, and it works, but BatchMaster's process on that is a lot more efficient. Yeah, I mean, we're using spreadsheets we use it for tracking. We'll use spreadsheets for basically batch scheduling, but yeah, spreadsheets. We're using QuickBooks for our desktop QuickBooks for financial, but our main ERP system, if you want to call it that, was the DOS-based system called AccuTerm. So it's a program that, in my understanding, was built in the late 90s, like 98, and we've been using it since. It was time. So there's been a lot of pre-planning to this, but those are the systems that we're currently using. So we were looking at, obviously, BatchMaster. We're looking at DCOM, Markov, and SAP. All of them had their, some different things, even depending on between BatchMaster and Markov or DCOM. They were all, they all had their different areas. I did feel that BatchMaster was a player in the field for us, to where it came down to a couple things in my decision, I guess, or a few things. One would be price. The price for what I was getting with BatchMaster seemed like a fair price in the middle of the range road. Wasn't cheap, wasn't expensive, super expensive or anything like that, where some of the other ones did land in those extremes. So that was kind of a decider. Reputation, I mean, obviously you have SAP and those guys. I mean, their reputation isn't bad. It's not that their systems are bad or anything like that, but it was more that it fit our price point with what we needed. Some of those other ones offered stuff that we wouldn't need right now, and maybe even in the future, but it just seemed like a lot of extra stuff that I wasn't going to use, that I would have to pay for anyway, is kind of what maybe also drove the price up. So it's just looking at those points and saying, what do we need here? What do we need to move forward, and make an efficient investment into what we're doing? And so, BatchMaster also had a reputation. They have, backing from some paint companies, things like that. So that helps me make that decision, because if I have my peers also using it a little bit, or if it's promoted within our industry, it makes me look a little harder at that company. So, which BatchMaster does, the American Coatings Association and things like that. BatchMaster comes up. So one of the main ones for me for years has been that we have multiple systems that we work in, whether it be our invoicing system, to our batch making system, to our financial system. I kind of look at those as like silos of information, right? So it's not a bad thing to have silos of information, and the silos being those programs in themselves, if you can think of that in like an animated way. But the silos of information have to communicate to each other to be efficient. So if they're not automatically communicating or passing information along to each other and working as kind of a group, it can be a little cumbersome, a little difficult to work within that. And you would have to have input internally, which, like I said before, can cause issues if things are, I use the example of typing a 3 instead of a 9 or something like that. In chemical formulation and in finance, even, that can be a big problem if you do that incorrectly. So having a system that does communicate throughout the whole process is key for us, and always has been in my eyes for efficiency for how we're doing things. On top of that, again, our tracking systems and tracking, let's say, finished good inventory or raw material inventory, those are both in 2 different systems for us right now. So our finished goods is in one silo of information, if you will, and our raw materials are in another silo of information. They don't talk to each other. They're manually input into that final good. And so it makes it difficult to kind of connect those points and get those data points based off of that. And so you want more information when you're doing that. And that's one thing that I've been kind of big on is we want more data points. We want more connection of information, and we want those silos to be communicating with each other. So if I make, if I use raw material number 1 and make a batch out of 1 and it goes to the finished good, I want to see that line all the way through and have the system do it that way. It just makes the most sense to me. It's most efficient, the safest, and the most correct way to do it, in my opinion. So those are really the big things that we have as far as, challenging things right now. But we've kind of put our stuff together, whether it be just building spreadsheets or building our own way to do it, to just kind of get through it. And it works for us okay, but I just know that there's a better way to do it. And like I said, from the beginning, as we're growing, which we are year by year, it's very important for our company to have a really good foundation to build that on. Now, we've been around for a very, very long time, but, these systems weren't available 50, 60, 70 years ago. Like, our data points are going to be better. We're going to know where things are at and when we need them. We're going to better be able to schedule, which all of this comes down to just making our jobs easier, our team's jobs easier, and making us more, that's just making us more efficient, right? I am working it in like a phase type situation. So phase 1 to me is that implementation of the ERP through the next, X amount of months that we're going to be doing that. But once we kind of come out of that, phase 2 is just checking our efficiencies, making sure we're utilizing BatchMaster to our full potential that we need, and making sure all of our, data points are correct, and everything kind of lines up. Once everything lines up, then I'm looking at how do we make internally, how can BatchMaster make our batching process easier, our production operation easier, and more efficient. And my third phase is implementing some kind of mobile type situation where we're going to be using mobile things to have our production operators entering in the information that they're doing at real time. So we can see, any one of our executive team members can see where things are at and when they're going to be done. We can track better. That's just better information to our sales group, and that just goes over to our customers, which, when customers have good information and they're aware of things and what's going on, whether that be, a hiccup in the production process or something like that, which is always going to happen, at least we know about that and we can talk to them about it. Typically, if you do that, they're going to be okay with it and understand things happen.